video is various fan art. 3 different fan art pictures done for Dungeons & Dragons streams. The first 2 are for the same one, High Rollers, which is a Dungeons & Dragons stream that airs on Twitch every Sunday. It's both on the High Rollers D&D and Yogscast, and it later goes up as video on demand on the High Rollers YouTube channel. All the artworks in this video were done in Procreate on my iPad Pro. This fan art is of the player characters Ayla and Oriah from the Erois campaign, which is their current campaign. The scene is from episode 27, called The Land of Roving Storm. Ayla is a Wild Elf Barbarian, which is a sub-variety of elf present on this world, the world of Erois. And on the other side, Oriah is a half-orc rogue ranger. The beast in front of them, I forget the exact name of it, but it's an electric crocodile mount, and I just show the crocodile rather than the rider. They're also in a type of peat bog called the Witchmoor, and I looked up different references to help with this. I looked up references of peat bogs, I looked up the official art for Ayla. There was no official art available for Oriah, so I asked some questions and rewatched the video that she was in this episode to get a description, but there was no physical description of her hair, skin color, eye color, certain key details I really wish they had described. It's kind of important for these D&D streamers to remember if there's no official art, and even if there is, they really should be describing the physical characteristics, because people are listening along and need to know what their characters look like, especially if they plan on doing fan art, but also just so they know what the characters look like. I just want to remind everyone that that's kind of vital for people to understand what they're imagining. Anyway, the dungeon master of this game, Sherlock Holmes, was actually nice enough to get back to me, but also acknowledged that she actually didn't describe her character that well because he wasn't certain. But he did say that the orcs of this world had grayish green and greenish skin, like the orcs in World of Warcraft, so I was able to work from there. I didn't have my own Twitch account yet, so I didn't contact the player to ask for a better physical description, so I decided I'd just figure out the rest of the physical details myself, and I ended up giving her yellow eyes. For Ayla, the Wild Elf Barbarian, I used the official art as a starting point, but still redrew it in my style. I had to change a couple of the details because there's a Celtic knot pattern that is too difficult for me to actually draw by hand. I tried several times, and I couldn't even figure out how to make a brush of that Celtic knot pattern. I'm very certain that the artist who did the official art used some sort of brush digitally to get all these Celtic knot patterns on. So instead I used a different downloaded, free-to-use Celtic knot pattern just to represent that sort of Celtic barbarian feel. Sort of Scottish Celtic barbarian feel that the wild elves of this world have, and Ayla in particular. Now you'll see later that she actually has lightning powers, and so does this crocodile creature. Now, I actually used an alligator as reference, because it wasn't entirely clear if it was more of an alligator or a crocodile in general. And these were mythical electric creatures anyway, and I had a really good figurine of an alligator on hand, so I just used that. I looked at it from behind, I modified it a little bit, and then I realized it was actually blue and white by re-listening to the episode at the segment where the creature was. So partway through you saw that I switched the colors to blue and white from more of a greenish color. I went and I said, what color was that? So I just double checked, and it can really help, especially if there's a proper physical description when you're doing fan art. Proper physical descriptions and official art are extremely helpful, and I just really want to remind everyone doing D&D streams to make sure to describe what the characters, monsters, and locations look like. It's better for everyone listening to know for visualization as well as for the creation of fan art. These very badass women are actually quite useful in combat, which I appreciate, especially in this campaign, and it's really nice to finally see a player character in one of these streams using a proper ranged weapon like a longbow, because, yeah, player characters can use longbows, and it seems like most people who do D&D streaming seem to forget the value of ranged weapon combat and the value of using things like a longbow. I did 2 versions of this picture on a separate layer, one that has the blood added in and one that doesn't. And when I sent in the official fan art, I was having trouble uploading multiple images in one email, so I ended up just uploading the one without the blood. So you can only see the bloody version here on the YouTube video. But the non-bloody version is the one I sent in, and hopefully it'll make it into the fan art compilation video that they release eventually. My last fan arts made it in, so I'm pretty sure this one will too. I think they got sent properly, so Here's hoping. Now, this campaign is very interesting because the world of Erois is very interesting. I really like the way the campaign's done from a world building perspective. It takes inspiration from several sources that I can easily recognize and that are admitted to, while creating a new thing by combining these different elements. I really appreciate the fact that the world has its own society and culture, and the Dungeon Master goes through a lot of effort to make different cultures and regions distinct from each other and have verisimilitude. So they make sense. The culture and everything makes sense to the area. So this area here has a lot of rain and random storms from an ancient curse. And so the people wear watertight clothing that's tight at all the edges and very high boots so that they can deal with the kind of weather that this area has. And the description of Oria's clothing was very good, so I was able to get that very well done. Now this here is the main villain, and I don't want to say main villain because there can be more than one villain, especially when it comes to what players' decisions are and events that happen. But I'm gonna go with Callus Starbane is the main villain of this whole story. An ancient conqueror from the stars, a mortal with immortality and great magic. He's a very interesting villain that's similar to some villains I've actually written for my own story, so I can understand where he's coming from. He has that classic evil-sounding villain name, Callus, which is also like Callus, that starts with a C, and he's very iconic in an identifiably villainous way. I did a separate file importing the chair and the background so that I could show the zoomed-in view of him in the throne room. Then I re-exported that image of him back out so that I could put him back in the hallway version of the room. And this is a scene from episode 26, The Purge, which is a very emotional episode. And I went back to the episode to get the physical description. I also looked at an artwork that had been done of this character to help me get the look more proper. But I did do things in my own style. I'm always redoing it in my own style. So you don't have to follow any official artwork exactly. You can do your own interpretation. But I tend to err on the side of following more of how the official art looks and the official description looks, because to me that feels more in canon or correct. And I like to get things more what I feel is accurate and correct. I don't like making a big mistake or doing something that feels wrong or incorrect. I use different layers in Procreate and glow effects and Gaussian blurs to help get a lot of the effects on this. I also looked up different references to help me with this, including castle throne rooms and hallways, science fiction spaceships and science fiction hallways on spaceships, as well as space and black crystals. I used a photo reference of a man sitting on a chair to help me do that. So this last artwork was inspired by watching an episode of Pub Draw. So I did this view similar to the one that they did in Pub Draw of Caleb Widowgast. That's not his original name, but he's a human wizard from the most popular D&D stream, Critical Role, which is also my favorite. Not necessarily because it's the most popular, but because it's just amazing. Now, spoilers for the latest episode of Critical Role when this went up, which is episode 56, The Favor. So if you haven't completely watched that episode, don't listen to what I'm about to say, and just watch the rest of this video on mute. Anyway, Caleb turned everything around by doing the most intelligent move. The Dungeon Master, Matthew Mercer, expected them to fight their way out or get imprisoned, but if they had been imprisoned, their bag would have been turned inside out. Not only would they have lost everything they owned and been in a deadly predicament that they walked into foolishly, but they would have lost the sacred artifact, the dodecahedron, that they've been carrying around, and probably executed. He would have had to do an ex machina and have NPCs of great power show up to rescue them. I can't think of any other way, logically, that they would have survived. But Caleb, instead of forcing them to fight their way out of a deadly situation, turned everything around and made friends with the Bright Queen by turning over the dodecahedron, which is the most intelligent, stunning display of something that was also completely in character. That's exactly what Caleb would have done. He has enemies high up in the Empire, which is the other country that this one's at war with. He is the highest intelligence character. He objected to them being there in the first place. He figured out how deadly it was, and he figured, hey, that bag will get turned inside out and they'll get it anyway, and then they'll kill us all, and we don't even know where we're getting imprisoned, and I need my spell book to cast spells. So he made the most heroic, intelligent decision and turned everything on its head, and I'm extremely impressed with decisions like that that are really smart and interesting, and I was so happy with that. And anyone who criticizes that decision on his part is not thinking about the logical consistency of the world and how actions have impacts and what the logic of the situation is. And anyway, I won't hear any criticism of Caleb's actions there. But anyway, hope you look forward to future videos. Have a great day. Goodbye.